Hello world, it's Sammy Kings. Now in this video we'll be talking about the API project in the ALX SE program. Now I'm going to be making some assumptions. Now one of them being that you've actually gone to get yourself familiar with the concept of APIs. You've actually gone through the resources, because the whole idea about this video here is to just kind of explain my thought process on how I was able to arrive at the results back then when I was undertaking this particular project. Okay, yep. So now let's get into it. Let's look at the tags. Now tag 0 here says that we are going to be writing a Python script that's using this REST API. Now if you click on this, because this is something that is highlighted, now if you click on this, it's actually going to take you to this URL. So I'll be copying this URL here. Nope. So then I'm going to be opening a new tab. Sorry, not there, here, and then I'll be pasting that in and then click on enter. Okay, while that is loading, let's come back to it. Now it says for a given employee ID, return information about his or her to-do list progress. Now let's look at the requirements. Number 1, we should use the URL lib or the request module. Now what I did then was to now get myself familiar with how the request module and how the URL lib module works, and then I need to now choose which one I am more comfortable working with, and of which I kind of went for, of which I actually chose the request module. Cool, because it's much more flexible to work with, especially when you're working with JSON objects, of which if you have done your due diligence in understanding or reading what the concept of APIs, you know the reason why the request module is much more flexible and easy to use. All right, now the next one says that the script must accept an integer as a parameter, which is the employee ID. So without being told, you already know that you're actually going to be using the sys module in Python, because you're actually reading argument passed to your script, right? Okay, now the third requirement here says the script must display on the standard output the employee to-do list progress in this exact format. Now ALX gave you a format that you should use. Now the first line is what the employee name is done with tax, number of done tasks over total number of tasks. Now what is saying here that when you are displaying this data, because when you hit the those endpoints, you're actually going to be getting a response. Okay, you're actually going to be getting a response. Okay, now that response that you are going to get is going to contain a data. Now amongst those data, when you are done evaluating, you should display the results in this format: the employee and the employee name. Remember, we actually passing an ID, not an employee name. So from that ID, we should be able to also get the employee name, right? So, and the name of the employee should be here, because if you look at the example they gave us, they said employee Alvin Howell. So Alvin Howell here can be substituted to this to mean, okay, this is where the employee name is going to be. Is done with tax. Now number of done tax is the tax the employee or the tax the user based on the ID has been able or have been able to complete. Now the total number of tax is the tax in which the employee has currently, either it's completed or not. So long it's a tax and the employee created it, it's just there. Okay, so this is, now they now said the second line and n next lines, meaning from the second line, which is this according to the data example, and your n number of lines, because see this is line 3, line 4 to n amount, should display the title of completed task tax, which is tax title with one tabulation. Tax title with one tabulation and one space before the tax title. Okay, so this is the demo example that ALX actually gave to us that we should do. Okay, so what I now did then, after understanding the concept of APIs and after doing my due diligence in picking which module I would like to use, either URL or URL, either URL lib or request module, of which I chose request module, I then went forth to understand how, because this is what is being given to us, and up until this point we've not really had some hands-on experience with API, right? So I took my time out to kind of understand and study this particular website. Okay, so now when I was going through this, I noticed that, okay, fine, that these are the endpoints that we could hit, which are the resources here, which is the posts, the comments, the albums, photos, to-dos, and users. Okay, now in here we see that on the users here we already have 10. So what I then did was, okay, fine, I kind of hit on this C guide here. Then on this C guide, of which I'm advising everybody to still do, is to look at how it's this first is in JavaScript, right? So I then looked at how it's being structured to kind of understand, okay, what is being expected of me, or like, okay, this is it. And I was just getting myself familiar with how it's being structured, even though it's not Python. But then just to kind of see, because the concept will still be the same, however, it's the syntax that would definitely differ. Now in this place here, they are kind of updating a resource. They are updating using the put method. And then this is the response. Now in this part here, they are kind of creating a resource using the post method. So if I want to like create a resource there, I'll have to use the post method. Okay, that was how I was just getting myself just familiar with how it's being structured, so at least I could give myself a quick overview of what's expected of me, even without even me looking at the going now to go solve the task. And here, right here, I saw this, which is users want to do's. So what I knew I saw this. So what I did was to open this in a new tab. Then on this same tab, I then went back to this part here and also clicked on this users to kind of compare. This was how I was getting myself familiar with it. Now I'm not going straight to solve the task for you. I'm trying to show you how me myself, even without having any prior knowledge, how I was able to get to come up with solutions. So this was it. I kind of saw this and then I realized that, okay, fine, this is going to give me all the users in the system in JSON format, because you can see these are 10. You can see the ID here is 10, and from the previous page we saw that the total number of users is 10. I then compared this with this guy here, and then I saw that, okay, fine, what I'm actually getting here is only the to-dos associated with a particular user. That's what I'm actually getting. Only the to-dos associated with a particular user. So I tried to kind of test this out and say, okay, fine, if this here can specify, if I'm hitting this endpoint for this particular user and this particular endpoint, and I'm getting all users, what if I try to do /1 to specify I want just a single user? And then I noticed I was able to get a response still in JSON format. The user details, or the user meta, anyone you want to call it. And then this was the user details. All right, and I tried to further test this out by changing 1 to 2, and then I saw that okay, fine, this was having Howell and stuff, and then began to make sense to me. Then I came back here also to change this to 2, and then same thing again. I was able to see only the details for this particular user ID. Are we good? All right, fine. So coming back again to the tags, remember here they said we are going to be displaying this with number of tags done, total number of tags, and we're also going to be specifying the title. Now from this particular endpoint here, I could also still see the title. I could also see if it's completed or not. So this particular post has an ID. This particular post has an ID of what? 22. Cool. Has an ID of 22. Now, but for this particular user, now the user ID is still 2. Remember, this was what I passed in here. Okay. And then I noticed that, okay, I could see the total number. If this is in JSON, I could see the total number. I could also get the total number of to-dos based on this user. So what I did then was to come to my Python repo. So Python 3. Then I'm going to be importing the request module. So let's just say from request, oh no, without me doing that, I want to just give it an alias. Import requests as rq request. Now what I then did was to do something like this. The request there, this should be my response, because every request has a corresponding response. So what I did was to then do something like this. I'm making a get request, because this is by default, this is a get request. So I'm making a get request. Then I'll need to specify the Now I'll need to specify the URL or the endpoint, right? So this was what I did. Now I already know, remember, this was just me just trying to get myself familiar, but then I know that this 2 is the corresponding ID. So this 2 is what I'm going to be getting from my script. And I also saw another way I could also do this, but then I'm giving you the two ways, right? So this was what I did to copy this out. Then I came here to paste this, and then I just pressed enter, and then let's wait for it to do its thing. All right, so now it has returned. Now first I need to verify if this was okay. So for every response there is you can also call the OK to see if this particular request you made was successful. And when I did that, I saw, okay, fine, this is what's true. So whatever I did was good. Now the next thing, I also want to now see this particular data, right? So because this is an API, it's actually going to be responding to you in a JSON format. And if you look at the user guide, you will always see that they're always calling the JSON method. So in that same way, the response also have a JSON method that you could call. So I'm going to call this first, and then voila, and then I compared this to what I was having here. And then I compared this to what I was having here, and then I could see that yes, it's actually the same response I'm getting here. It's the same one I'm getting using Python. So what I did now was to now assign this response now to a variable, of which then I can't remember the exact variable I used, but then let's just say we give this user to do. So I'll just call this user to do's, right? Then enter. So now because if you look at this, now first let's look at the type. So I'm calling type user to dos. Now this is a list, because when I call the JSON method, you can see this, it's now a list containing dictionaries. I didn't want to say it right straight up, because you might start wondering, okay, why? I just wanted to first of all call the type method and then show you why this type method is actually returning list, because sometimes we just kind of see things and then we don't know why it works, but it's not really cool. So this is the reason why it's actually going to return a list of dictionaries, right? Because see here, this is the lists. This is the beginning of to specify is a list, and then the ending to this is it. However, it contains series of dictionaries. Now this is the very first dictionary. This is where it ends, and you can see the comma here, and then there's another dictionary. So what I now did was, okay, since this is a list, I could also you could also use your list method, right? And then your learn function also can also work here. So what you do to kind of get the total number, because this is actually going to return the total number of to-dos. When we do this, I'm actually going to return the total number of to-dos irrespective of if it's completed or not, right? So what I did was to do user to-dos, and then I got 20. So now I'm going to call this and say total. You see, I've not moved straight to now to go do it on my console. Now I'm still here just trying to get myself familiar with it. So total, then I gave this. So now I have gotten, I think I will need to give this total. Let's just call this let's leave it that way. So now I have gotten the total number of to-dos, which is 20, right? Cool. Now what's the next thing I need to do? I need to get the total number also the user has completed. Now you could see alongside the response, you could see that this here is showing completed false, completed true. So if I want to get the total number of to-dos that the user has completed, I just need to look at this key, this completed key, right? Now you could do this so many ways. You could do this so many ways. You could start by first extracting. You could start by kind of first creating a for loop to loop through this particular list. Now, you know, when you are looping through the particular list, you are now kind of getting each dictionary. Then before that, you could try and kind of initiate a count to kind of say, okay, before you start your loop, you could say something like count is equal to 0 to kind of instantiate it, so initialize it to 0. Then you kind of say for let's say for to do in user to dos, for to do in users to do. Now this is now going to, now this to do is now going to be this each in the this dictionaries here. So after doing that, then still I have not gone to go solve that stacks. That was how I did this back then. So sorry about that disturbance there. Now since this to do is now going to be holding this guy here, I'm now going to, I then said, okay, if to do to I think I did to do if to do dot get, now I need to provide the key. Now the key I'm looking out for here is what's completed, right? Completed. Now if to do dot get completed equals true, or I could just leave this as this. Now what is actually going to what this is actually going to check is if this is actually true, like if doesn't return if this doesn't return none, or stuff like that. So I'm just going to say if to-do.get it gets completed is, now this is going to check if it's true. So now if this answer here is true, now I want to now increase my count. I'm now saying count what? +1. So when I'm looping through this here, I'm also checking for the completed. Now if the completed is true, I want to increase it by 1. And I am done with that. Now let's see what I got from my count. And you can see here I got what? 8. Now this is it. I now came here to also count it because this is my very first time with you working with API. So I needed to be comfortable working with it before actually going to solve the task, and of which I see many people don't do. Okay, so this was what I did. I now came here to start counting it. Okay, this is completed through, which is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. Now this is 5. Now this is 5. Okay, this is 6. This is 7. And let's continue. And yeah, this is 8. So, and yeah, this is 8. So, like so, I'm able to get both the total number of to-dos, which we saw previously from here. Now I'm also able to get the ones that the user have done, which is this, right? Cool. Now the next, what I did then was, okay, since I've been able to get this, now let's see if I can get the user detail, of which I was able to do from this part here, from this particular part here. So like so, I've been able to get my data. Now just the same way I was able to get this data just from the response I got, is that same way I was able to pull all this out. So let's go. Oh, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to exit this, and then kind of let's call this tax 0, or not, just say 0 tax.py. Okay, so first things first, this is a Python script. As such, I'll need to call my shebang line here. So user bin. Now here you will need to check what are the exact thing ALX said you should do. Is either user bin Python 3 or user bin env Python 3, whichever one ALX said you should use. Please use that. So let's just say the document, let's just write a brief documentation here. Let's just say grabbing user data using API. Please make your documentation much more straightforward. Okay, so I'm going to say I want to import. Now I'm going to be importing the request module. I'm also going to be importing I think that's all I need. The sys module. Okay, so these are the two modules I am importing. Okay, now what I did then, or let's just come here and just say URL, then this should be our URL, which is this, right? For this, so I copied, so I'll copy. Let's just make it consistent. So this is the URL. Or let's just make this users. Yeah, and another way you could actually still get this same data, of which it's not, it's really, you still get the same result. However, I think the process is not straightforward as this. So let's go back. Okay, yeah. Now the process is not really straightforward. However, if you hit this users now, you can see here that here you are getting for all the all users in the same way as a list. Now you can decide to use this method and then start grabbing, iterating through it. Then you now be something like a nested loop. Now the nested loop, as if you really want to go down this route, of which I said it's achievable, but then stressful. All right, so let's proceed. So this is the URL I'm going to be hitting. Now, next up is I think I will need to split my screen. Yep, I will need to. Okay, I will need to split my screen. But first, I will need to expand first. So let me just expand, so when I split the screen, it's going to be much more easier. Okay, so okay, so let this be tax. Okay, and then this part here should be our file, which you said is 0. What's the name of the file again? Yeah, which is vi0. Okay, so the very first thing I want to actually get now is to get the ID, right? So because here it says the script must accept an integer. So what you could do here, you could kind of say user ID. You kind of say user ID, and then you do sys.argv, and then you put in the index 1, because you know it's always going to be on index 1. You could do this way, but yeah, let's just say we go down this route. Yeah, so we've been able to get the user ID. So let's say we then get the response. So let's just say now the next one here says the script must display on the standard output. So now if we hit this now, let's say users, and then we do /2 now. Let's say we do /2. You see, we're only getting the details of the user. We are only getting the details of this particular user here. Only getting the details of it. So from here we could actually grab the name. You can actually grab the name, which is what Evan Howell. Same thing if we change this to 1. So let's wait for the response. Yeah. Now if we change this to 1, we could actually grab. You can actually grab the user details. Now this here is the ID, this is the name, this is the username, and then here we now have the geo here is a nested dictionary. You see, sorry. Now you can see this is a nested dictionary here, because this key here, the value here, is another dictionary. Same thing with here. So what if you want to now grab this, you don't need to bother yourself about, because you know that this here is on the same level as, like, it's not nested. Even this address here, because even this geo here is nested in this address. Yeah, so you could just do something like when you get the response, when you hit this, you could just say, okay, that particular response dot get, then you pass in the name, and then you'll be able to get the username, right? So let's just test this. Okay, so let's say we called in, let's import request, let's give it the same alias again, REQ. Yeah, then I'll call this response, and then I say request dot get. Now I'm going to say URL. Now this will give me the response, but then this response is actually going to be in JSON as we did then, so I could just call the JSON method on it, so that I'm going to be getting the Python equivalent, the Python object of this. Now this is now going to hold this data here. So let's just give this, so let's just say we do this, and then we just try and print. First of all, we just try and print. Okay, let's just try and print the response that we get when we do something like this. No, I think we are missing out something. Yeah, we are missing out something. So instead of doing this, why not let's build the URL from this build the URL using the user ID given. So we could do something like this. User ID could use f strings, or instead of doing that, let's just say we do something like this. We get, first of all, so first of all, we get the user ID from sysargv. Then we will need to cut this out. I'll just copy or remove this part here. Then instead I'll paste this here. Now in this place, I could now do something like this to just kind of build the URL there. I will now say / then a placeholder, then I'll call my format method, then call my .format method. Yep. Now sorry for it going to the next line, is because I actually split my screen. Yeah, so now I just need to pass the user ID. Alright, so now when I now pass in URL, I'm 100% sure that whatever we get here, let's say we get like 1 or 2, that 2 is going to be added to this to build that URL, and then I'm passing the URL. Yeah, then on the URL I'm also calling the JSON method to kind of get what we are having here, what we are having in this place. Okay, so now let's just print. So we are now printing out the response. Okay, so I'll make this an executable x0 tax. Okay, so now run this, then let's say 1. Okay, yeah, from here is request. Yep, sorry about that. Now clear, and then let's run it again, and let's see what we are going to get. Oof. Yep, so this is what we were able to get. So if we want to now get the name of the user from our script, if we want to now get the name of the user from our script, so instead of printing it, man, I think I have to make this a series. This video is really getting long. I didn't plan it. Sorry about that also. So instead of us printing this, because this is now going to be a dictionary, okay, so we could still print, but then we could now call it's a response.get. Now we now provide the name, the key, which is name, and then let's see if we're actually going to get the name. Now you can see we're able to get for Liam Graham. Now let's repeat this for, let's say, to Evan Howell. Okay, now if you look at the tests, it says employee Evan Howell is done with tax 8 over 20. So let's see how best we can build, because this is the very first line. So let's see how best we can build this here. Okay. Oops. All right, so since I've been able to get this, so we could say, so we could just put this in an F string, or let's just, instead of doing that, now this is just for tutorial purpose. If I was actually going to be doing this for a tax or for, I will actually kind of structure this very, very well. Okay. All right, so let's just say this is the username. So I've gotten the username. All right, so next up is how I'm also going to get the total number of tags, right? And then we've been able to see that from this tab here, hitting this endpoint here. So I'm just going to make another let's just make another variable here. Let's call it user to do, and then again I'll make this a string, I'm going to copy this, yep, paste it, but then I also want this to be what the user actually gave to me from my script. So same way, I'm going to be calling the format method, and then I'm going to be passing in the user ID. Okay. Now before you actually push to GitHub, make sure you check your code if it conforms to the bytecode style. And this right here doesn't conform to bytecode style because it's more than 74 characters. You see, it's actually 82. Okay, so one way you could actually just do this is to break this to the next line. Here, and then one way you could do this is to break this to the next line and then indent it. Then do your indentation properly. Something like this. Yep, kind of indent it properly. Okay, but let's just go with this. I'll leave you guys to battle with that. It's not really hard to do anyways. So now we've been able to get the user to do. All right, now when we hit this, remember when we hit this, we said that we are getting all the to-dos for that particular user. So just like how we did that earlier, we could now initiate called count to 0, and then you can say for no, first we need to make a request to this to get the user to do. So let's call this user to do URL. Let's call this user to do URL, and let's call this user to do's, and then same thing again. We're going to copy this, then I'll paste, but then I'll change this to user to URL. All right, now this is going to give me this is going to give me this kind of response, which is a list. Now I would then call my learn function to get me the total to do. So I'll call this total. Please arrange this properly for yourself. So I'll say total to do's, then user. So I'll just say learn user to do's. Okay, learn user to do, which is going to give me the total to do's. Now I need to get the number that is completed by the user. Let me try and expand this. Okay, I think this is much better. Okay. All right, so now let's try and get the number of to do's that the user has completed. So I'll say for to do, just like what we did, then for to do in user to do's, then for to do in user to do, which is going to be grabbing those lists. Now say if to do the get, then I'm be providing the key which is completed. This is only going to work if the completed is true. So I'm going to say if to do the get, that's just what this line it means. If to do the get is true, then I just want to increase my count, right? So say count plus equals 1 and that's just it. I'm done with the for loop. So I'm able to get the completed ones just from here. And yeah, I also remember that they said that your script should not run if it's imported. So if that be the case, what you just need to do here is kind of use this stuff here, like if name underscore equals main, to kind of mean if you're actually running this, and then you have to now in everything you are now doing here, you have to start indenting them like this. Again, I want you to kind of organize your own code properly. To kind of do something like this. Then this is how you want to do yours. But this is just for tutorial purpose. Okay. All right. So now we've been able to now get the needed data we want, which is the tax. We've been able to get the tax. We've also been able to get the total number of tasks completed, the total number of tasks or to-dos that are available. We've also been able to get the username. Now we can also get the title, yeah, because we could still do the same thing. We look through this same user to-dos to now get the title, because this is where the title is. To look through it to get the title. Okay, so let's go. So let's just say the format is employee Alvin Howell is done. So we'll now say print. Let's make this consistent. So employee, then we need to provide the name. So I can actually do this using f strings. Yeah, I just use this f strings, and then is what the username. This becomes our username. Okay, the employee having is done with, sorry, this is with tax. Now this should not be our counts. This should be our counts. And then this should be our total to do. So this should not be total. This should not be our total to do's. So let's just see this part here and let's see if we are right on track. So I'll clear and then let's run this. Okay, I have syntax errors on line 12. Okay. Yep, I need to remove that. So line 12. Yes, I didn't see that. Okay, cool. Okay. All right. So let's see. Let's wait for it to respond and then display our output. Okay. So you see we have our employee having how well is done with tax 8/20. Now let's try and change this to 1 and let's see. Okay, it's done with 11/20. All right, cool. Now we have been able to get the very first line. Now the next one actually says here is that second and n next lines display the title of the completed task. Now to get the title of the completed task, I think it's pretty simple now. It's pretty simple for us to do. Yup. So, well, I think now I'm going to take too much time in explaining this. All right. So since I'm going to say print. Okay. So what I want to do now, I could just wrap this now in a comprehension using list comprehensions to just do this. So I could say this so that to prevent me from writing too much. So first I'm going to look through for user to do's, or let's just say for title. No, because when we hit this, we're actually going to be getting this, and then we are concerned with the title. I think we are only going to be displaying. I think we're only going to be displaying titles that the user is has completed. Lines with title of complete. Yeah, we're only going to be showing the number of tags that the user has completed. Yep. So I'm going to be saying the same thing for to do in user to do's. This is going to grab me this dictionary. This is going to grab me this dictionary. Yeah, now once I get this, I want to now print out the title if only it's completed. So come here and then say for to do's in to do's if if now my to do's dot gets then completed, just like what we did here, then I want to now print. So I want to now print out. Now we should print a tab, then I also need to be calling. I think it's now getting messy. Yeah, I think it's getting messy already. But then instead of you using list comprehensions, you could still do yours orderly. But I just want to use list comprehensions to just kind of do mine here. So since for to-dos in user to-dos is going to grab all these to-dos here, like each and every one of them like this. Okay, now okay, yep. Now I could still actually okay, no, it won't still work there. All right, so now I need to now print out the title. So I will say to-dos. Yep, I think I should use f strings to here and say to-dos. Put this here. Say to-dos. The get then I will need to provide the name, which is what the key rather, which is title. Okay, so ALX tab and a space, of which this is the tab and then this is the space. So yep, and here we go. Okay, so let's run. Oh, yep, I made some typo here. Dots instead of to-dos, and that's on line, yeah, line 21. Yep, for to-dos and user to-dos, if to-dos, yep, if to-dos dot get completed, yep. Okay, so let's clear and then let's try for user 1. Okay, now you can see this is for user 1. Now let's change this for user 2. Okay, wonderful. And like so, we have been able to cover tax 0. Whew. All right, so I'm definitely going to convert this to a series now. All right, so in the next series we'll be covering tax 1. Yeah. All right, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for sticking through. And yeah, before we wrap up the curtain, this is one way you could actually do it. There's also another way we could actually do it, but I'll leave that to you. Yeah, I will also still want to see how best you guys can actually achieve this. But then the concept is still same. You're actually making a request, you're getting it. But then the second method is one of the ways you could do it now. I think there are more than back then. I did my using three methods. Yes. One, it was using this particular endpoint that we did here, using this endpoints. Another was not, I didn't use this endpoint. I actually used parameters. Yeah, using this here, but then using this here to get the user ID details, but then getting this, I actually passed in parameters. That was one way you could do it. Then there are also a couple of other ways to do it. Yeah, I'll leave you guys to kind of do that, and then if you actually encounter any errors, drop it in the comment section, leave a like, subscribe, and also share the videos to as many ALX SE students that are taking this project. Do have a wonderful day. Thank you.